This video ostensibly is about False Hope Girl. I'm just going to read the history. This is sort of a timeline up to today as best I can. I'm not able to find all the data because, well, people are getting flagged, or I didn't know this. I knew this was happening, but I didn't know it was widespread at one point. 2013, recycling a meme from wits.ws and many other websites. The same old, same old. It's the perpetual motion machine repackaged, redone, and reused like chewing gum off of the underneath the table. 2014, a certain individual, False Hope Girl, made almost $60,000 in donations. Said, I don't have to prove it works. It's not up to me, it's up to you. Which makes no sense. Went on a London holiday. 2015, said, I'm leaving the New Age movement. So you could, fleece Christians, I suppose. Confessed that the equipment never worked as claimed, but did it in a backhanded way so that denials could be done later. QEG, Quantum Energy Generator, was then part of the BDO, scam or website, depending on how you look at it. Because she only got $80 on her, GoFundMe, so it became an open source consulting activity, so she could get paid money to tell you, move the wire over 1 more millimeter. Because she wasn't allowed to do GoFundMes anymore. Wasn't working. Maybe she's doing them again, under multiple aliases again. There's like 8. Somehow, 2017 got mixed up with Angela Power Disney, Mel V, and then YouTube finally censored her. Too many complaints from people who were dissatisfied customers are saying, I don't have to prove it works. Give me money. Next. Starts flagging vids in 2018. A lot, apparently. Making sure she can, lay waste to all criticism. Saying it's a privacy issue. You just fill in whatever blank. Magic word. And YouTube will flag things because who cares, right? And 2019 expended a lot of effort talking smack about people. Not one of the pieces of equipment has ever been built by anyone that could show any energy return. And in some cases, people only got energy out of it because it happened to be bigger than a brick box, like a little bit bigger than a car battery, and put out just the same amount of energy as a battery. Very suspicious. No over unity, no excess energy. Had to be a fraud. You're just a hater. I'm going to read some comments and I'm going to get to an actual practical demonstration of awesomeness. Me. They don't actually sell the device because they weren't allowed to. It became too obvious it was a scam. Consultants get $300 a pop if you can't make yours work because you don't believe enough. Someone mockingly said, it's all well and good to discuss man's laws of physics, but this is built according to God's laws of physics. And of course, Satanists wouldn't be able to make it work because somehow electricity knows whether or not you believe in God. Making a career out of scamming with fake free energy machines, but in some cases refusing to say so. Getting a patent calls it her adaptation of a Nikola Tesla tech. Patented. Yes, patent doesn't mean anything. Is she breaking patent law? No, it's a remix. It's like me doing a cover version of a song. Except for some specific restrictions, there's no actual law being broken. I can still be sued for the money because of someone assuming that I'm taking money from them by basically just singing their song and they own the actual text of the song. Unless I modify it heavily, or at least partially, I'm going to have to pay some money eventually. It's an adaptation of Nikola Tesla's patented technology. And you can look it up, our claim on page 2 of 35 out of a PDF. That's nice. I'm going to bring up Nikola Tesla in a minute, specifically on how to test this. We're going to test the Tesla. Yeah. So here we go. We're going to do the basics here. I'm not going to bring up her full name and anything like that because in 2018 she started flagging videos. And there's a bunch of data here to go through if you want to look below, but let's review. This is the same old scam that's always existed. It never worked, and it was acknowledged by this person. Got mixed up with other people because collaborators, is a thing. Used to be one of the scams on YouTube was, let's say there's a grid of 9 people here. We'll just make it the Brady Bunch thing. And one person posts, that gets their turn to post a video, and everybody promotes it. Then it's this guy's turn, and everybody promotes them. This cross-promotion thing is done as a way to jack up your ranking on YouTube so you become more and more visible. The more visible you are, the more power you have. Influencers. That's how they used to work. YouTube has now made it to where that doesn't work anymore. So they just sort of fade away. Beautiful Girl by Dana would prop up, what's his name, who used to do plaster work. And their gig that week is saying Fukushima is causing chemtrails. You know, spin the wheel of stupid. But here we go with the basics here. I'm done looking at the commentary, and we're just going to blank the screen and chill. How do you test a perpetual motion machine? The one she's claiming she released open source documents on and tried to keep it vague, but it's not vague enough that it couldn't be critiqued on its own merits. Many of us made videos, and I did one at one time, where I did a simplified diagram of it, where I took the entire circuit and broke it down to what are all the capacitors in a row really valued at, what is all the inductors valued at, what are the proximity to each other. She even put out a much more complicated version that required you to go through 3 or 4 diagrams. I fixed it, changed it, made my own version, remix, just like what she did. And I posted it for free. The video was up and left up. She didn't see it, didn't care. A bunch of people said, thank you. And then a couple of weeks later, yeah, I built it, doesn't work. So let's talk about how to test an actual perpetual motion machine, a real one. I'm going to give you the Sun Tour, I think it was called, light battery pack. It was a bicycle bottle cage battery pack. It was stuck into a water bottle, about this big. And you could weigh it, figure out its volume, measure its voltage, measure the current it could put out by statement, check the batteries because they still listed how many milliwatt hours they contained or how many milliwatts they were related to or milliamp hours or whatever. And then test them to see how much real electrical power you could get out of them by running all the batteries in parallel and in series, and how efficient they were for charging and discharging. How much energy are you wasting charging a battery? Do you have to put in 10 watt hours of energy to get 5? Or do you get 7? What's the actual yield? What's your input versus your output? It's not going to be higher, but let's say we can just test that. That's a first test. How much space does it take up and how heavy is it? And how much matter is in the container? How many atoms? And what you find out is that power density, which is based on the weight, by the way, volumetric capacity, how much power total in the object, you can figure out the upper limits for it. Then you can look up what would be a perfect battery, because there are chemical equations and tests you can do. You can extrapolate these things. Mostly because you can test whether or not a battery gets hot to detect that it's wasting energy as heat. You can figure out what's the maximum hypothetical, fantasy world, perfect battery. And we have a calculation for that. The perfect battery would be, it's actually, you get diminishing returns at one point or another. So there's an upper practical limit. And the ideal battery is just a little higher. You can get a practical limit that's almost ideal. The reason I can say that is that in mechanical systems, you can get that kind of thing. A flywheel in liquid hydrogen based on magnetic repulsion as a bearing. That actually exists. You use a superconductor. You can make a bearing that you can spin up in a nearly frictionless environment. And it will be as close to perfect as possible. And it will be literally just a little bit below the ideal. We can actually achieve these things. They have no practical value at all because you can't use it for anything. But you can test to see if it does come close to that. It's nearly absolute zero. It's rotating at thousands of RPM. And you can detect passively when it starts slowing down. You can do the same thing with some hypothetical battery pack. There are batteries that come really close to this ideal, but they're very rarefied. They don't last very long, but they demonstrate that you can chemically test and prove that you can at least get up here. Doesn't mean it's really the ideal. We don't really know, but it's really close to what we've calculated, and the calculations work out. The curves down here where normal batteries are, you can test that. Gasoline, when you burn it, or any other fossil fuel, or pure hydrogen and pure oxygen that would produce water vapor, you can test these efficiency levels and you can get close to them. Same thing with batteries, same thing with jet engines, same thing with resonant circuits. You can make a coil of wire store energy. That can be tested. And if you do a superconducting coil, it's almost perfect. Same thing with capacitors. Supercapacitors can act like a battery. They have a shitty curve to them, but they work. Nickel cadmium has a flat curve for the voltage and goes toot when it's dead. Puts out current the entire time and bam, for the voltage and current, it drops. These are not things that require that you be a Buddhist to find out if it's true. There's a joke there. So let's take this volume of water, because it doesn't produce any energy. That's actually flavored water. And let's test our perpetual motion machine idea. And this is actually the proof in the pudding problem. Well, you have to have faith for it to work. That's not how the real world works, because what if you're not home to give faith to your perpetual motion machine that's got the cross on it and maybe some satanic symbolism? Neither of these have power. I don't know if you know this, but worshiping Satan or worshiping Christ doesn't affect whether or not your flashlight goes dead. Sorry, all of you goths and Wiccans out there that are always being blamed for this shit when even you don't say these things. But none of the faith-based anything works. You can test this very, very easily. A room with people in it and a room without people in it has exactly the same behavior. You might add some heat energy, that's it. But then again, so would a human being or a cow. Cows are much more energy source-ish. If you can't do better than the dog, then the faith is not relevant. But the dog has faith in you. But let's get on with it. How do you test this? You measure the max volume of the device being tested. Let's say False Hope Girl shows up with some sort of perpetual motion generator, and it's exactly 2 cubic feet. Okay, you're not allowed to bring in a special table. You're not allowed to touch it for the test, and the test has to produce 3 times the amount of energy maximum that this thing can hypothetically produce under an ideal condition, because you're claiming something extraordinary. So I want to see 3 times what would happen if we had an idealized battery that even NASA doesn't use because it's worthless, because it's too hard to build in $1 million. You have to do better than that. And the immediate thing is, well, I can't do that. They don't say that. They just say some excuse, or I need more investment money. They're constantly begging for donations or payment. Give me money, give me money. The answer is no, you can't have any money. You will prove that this works, or you will go out of business. This has never been taken up by a real charlatan, because charlatans know they can't prove this. But a couple of them are stupid enough to think they can fool the situation. It doesn't matter how much fucking around you do. How many pounds or tons of material did you bring to this test? Well, the table doesn't count. We're weighing it. Okay, we're assuming all of it's an electric battery because there's no movement, or a gas generator. We're going to assume it's the most power-dense thing, gasoline. Set it there. Okay, you have to produce this many kilowatt hours. You said it doesn't need recharging. And they're about to say it won't work, but they're going to phrase it some other way. And it sits there in a sealed-up room where they can't dick with it. And we have fun bringing in scientists to say, the power of thermodynamics compels you. We just make fun of them because they're going to invoke religion, because religion is the easiest thing to get support for. If you claim you're Christian and you're being put upon, it doesn't matter if you spent your entire life raping goats on camera, someone will defend your ass. Or your donkey. And what happens? The thing goes dead many, many hours before it should if it was a perpetual motion machine, because it was never supposed to go dead. It doesn't have any better capacity. It actually has worse capacity than just sticking a car battery or even some alkaline batteries in the room. Every fucking time. Because we hook it up to a load and chew up the energy. And they claim foul, and it's like, the deal was you can't get it back. You never get it back. If it doesn't do better than if it doesn't do the minimum you said it does, which is something fantastical, we get to tear it apart. And then we find the battery packs and hidden generators and stuff stuffed everywhere. That test never gets picked up again once they figure out you're going to do it. That's what I'm infamous for at one time under another name I used as a stage name. The power of thermodynamics compels you to deal with reality. Good day.